So, a question I get every now and again is where people might ask me that, I've got land and I would like to develop it, or I'm just looking to get into property developments. It's normally somewhere along those lines, or sometimes my family owns land, we want to develop it. And, more often than not, for a lot of those people, sometimes I'm not able to help them, especially when that land hasn't been zoned yet. Just having land doesn't mean that now you need to become a developer. Developments are very difficult, and when I'm speaking about developments, I'm not speaking about buying a small 300-400 square meter plot and then building a house. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm speaking about larger scale developments where people might say, I've got this big piece of land, I want to build a shopping center, or I want to build blocks of flats or townhouses, or whatever the person wants, has in mind to develop. It's not to say that it's impossible. There are developers you can partner with if the property is located correctly, but in a lot of cases it's land that's isolated somewhere, and it's probably doesn't have the business feasibility to motivate for the development that the person might have in mind. And in most cases, people just don't have the money to develop those parcels of land. I would say, you know what, rather postpone, keep the land. I mean, it's just costing you rates and taxes, but don't try and become a property developer if you're completely new as far as property goes, because developments are probably one of the most advanced types of ways to make money from property. Yes, you can make good money, but you can also lose your shirt. You can lose everything with a development if you get it wrong. So just be very careful about choosing developments to be the vehicle that you are planning on using on your property journey, because it might not always be the best way for you to move forward. If you really have a prime piece of land, like later this week, I'm meeting someone who has a very nice piece of land, and I looked at it and I thought, this year there could be an opportunity for a retail development, for a shopping center. So I'm going to go and speak to the person and see, if they would be open to structuring a sort of a deal. But in most cases, whenever someone presents me with a piece of land, it's like normally out in the sticks somewhere, and in the middle of nowhere. There's nothing happening around it. When you think about land, for example, like Waterfall Estate, remember, for years that land, there was no interest really in the land. That family wasn't making any money from the land either. It's only as development started moving towards that side of Johannesburg that the opportunity then arose, and the timing was right for the development to take place. So in some cases it might take decades, it might take 100 years before the land that someone owns actually becomes feasible for a development. And remember, developments can take years, so even though you see like Waterfall is developing now, those plans probably started many, many years ago. I know developers that, they know exactly what they're doing, but even for them, sometimes just to bring that development to completion can take them 3 years, it can take them 5 years. And if you don't have a way to sustain yourself in that period, it becomes very difficult. And because now the development is sucking up all your money. So if you're trying to get into property and you're looking at developments as one of the ways you're going to do it, and you have these, this goal in mind, just remember, it might not be the best option. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. I'm just saying it might not be the best option for you to take at that point in time. It's a different thing if you have the capital, you have the resources, you can bring on the people that can assist you to pull this thing off. But in most cases, for most people, they don't have that. And then it takes them years and years and years to develop. So I would rather walk away from that and look at something else within property that you can look at and say, okay, you know what? I'm going to use this vehicle in property to make some money. And then from there, I'll take some of that money and I'll push it towards this development that I had in mind. So developments, not for newbies, definitely for the more advanced property player.